So moving further around the building, we can see that there's still quite a bit of debris even on this side, and I would think that a lot of that will be coming down this valley. There's not much any further up here, but right in this corner, there's nothing on this end here, but right here, there's quite a bit of debris just sitting in this valley. So really, you always should consider covering the valleys. They're not always necessary. But especially if you're catching water and you've got heavy debris, you really don't want to not consider doing the valley. Most of the measuring you can do from the ground. It is better if you can get up and measure. You'll get a more accurate measurement if you get up on the roof or close to the roof. But the one place you can't get a measurement from the ground, obviously, is the valley. You can, if you've got near maps, you can estimate it in a near maps and add a little bit more just to make sure you've got enough. But the two parts of the valley is obviously the length. So if we can do the whole length, you can easily run your tape up to the top of the valley and go all the way up. Now that's touching the top of the valley to the ridge cap. This here is exactly 3 meters. I would generally just do a little bit more, just so you've got, because of the funny angle that it is, you may want a little bit more. So from there, this is telling me 3 meters to the edge. I would probably make this 3.2, 3.3, just to make sure, even up to 3.5 to make sure you've got enough, because this is generally a specific size for the valley. With that, the one thing that you'd also need to consider is the width of the material. As I said before, some of the widths are all standard at 250 millimeters, 500 millimeters. Our expanded products in our tough mesh and our gutter mesh range are variable with whatever size you like. Another standard size in that range is 330 wide. But generally what you need to do is make sure you've got about 50 mil at least on each side of the valley. So if you were using a 250 millimeter wide, you would always just, the way you can work it out is just do the width between it. Now this width, I'm measuring at 140. So that'll give you, if you did the 250 millimeter mesh, you could use it. It's probably preferable that you go a little bit wider, but the 250 millimeter mesh will work. But if you had the opportunity and you were going to use one of the expandeds, I would suggest that 330 millimeter wide would be much better. Your 250 will be that wide, and it gives you about 50 millimeters either side. It gives you enough to put your clip on. The 330 millimeter mesh will be that wide, which is a really nice width, and it keeps it up nice and high above your valley so that the debris's got a chance of coming off. 500 is probably getting out a little bit too wide. You could consider 500 if you've got no other option with some of the ember meshes that are restricted to their widths. 500 mil is quite wide, but again, you'll see that it will be quite cumbersome. It'll work fantastically that wide, but it might just look a little bit too much. So on here, we just got to decide whether we're going to use the 250. It'll probably depend on which product we use, or we use the 330 in our expanded range of tough mesh and gutter mesh.